Good morning, Merlin. My name is Timothy Froude. I'm President and CEO of Sokoman Minerals Corp, a junior explorer involved in lithium and gold exploration in Newfoundland, Canada. Our flagship property is the Moosehead Gold Project, but we also have a very exciting and very new lithium, cesium, critical minerals discovery that we're working on with our joint venture partner, Benton, also in Newfoundland. And we're well financed. We've got drills spinning on Moosehead. We have a camp and a drill in place at the Kraken, which is the lithium discovery. We should be starting there in about another month or so once winter settles down a little bit. But I think it's going to be a banner year for Sokoman.
Timothy, thank you for an excellent introduction. You've covered all the bases. We could perhaps stop the interview there, but let's push on. So, just as by way of reminder. Moosehead, your flagship gold project. You're in Newfoundland. It's where you grew up. It's brought you back home. Where has that project got to in its kind of maturity?
Well, right now we're involved in a 100,000 meter program, which is our largest program to date. Collectively, we've drilled just under 100,000 meters in the five previous phases. And we have about 20,000 meters left in the current phase. It's just a number. We're not going to stop drilling when we hit 100,000 meters. Trust me, there's a lot more work to be done here. We're targeting a high-grade orogenic gold deposit similar to the Fosterville gold deposit in Victoria, Australia. Our largest shareholder, Eric Sprott, who controls about 20% of the stock, of course, was instrumental, I guess, in putting together the package or the deal to get the Fosterville mine. And it wasn't long after that, of course, that the world realized just what Fosterville was, a world-class deposit. We're currently drilling with 2 rigs. There's a 3rd rig in the shop right now, but we're targeting a new zone of mineralisation that we hit just before Christmas. We call it the 463 zone. We think it's a folded splay off of the main structure, which we call the Eastern Trend. And right now we're wedging off a couple of holes off of a parent hole to try and cut through what we think is a perpendicular zone to the main trend, which is why we've basically had to drill almost completely opposite to what we've been normally accustomed to drilling when you're trying to drill off a gold deposit. The lithium project is ready to go. We're just waiting.
Hang on. Before we get into the lithium, let's stick with Moosehead a bit. These orogenic gold projects, they can be fabulous in terms of grade, but they can also be challenging to drill, and you can sometimes it can take an awful lot of time and effort to get a resource together. Where are you in the required drill spacing that you need to do, and where are you in that kind of pathway to a resource estimate?
Well, you're absolutely right. They're very rewarding when you do get your head wrapped around them, and being a vein hosted type system, these things are notorious, of course, for being a little bit difficult sometimes to figure out continuity. Grade can sometimes be a little all over the map in terms of the nugget effect sort of thing. We're still drilling basically a 15 to 25 meter, regimented pattern. We're trying to build this thing outwards from the known. We're not trying to be heroes and drill, a 500 meter step out and hit down dip, because we'd only still have to fill all of that anyway. So I'm being a little probably cautious with that approach, Merlin. I have been criticized for it, and I'll take that. But I'd rather, like I said, spend money and learn from it than in terms of not having to go back and re-drill a lot of holes that you would have drilled anyway. We still have a lot of near-surface targets to test as well here. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to play it safe, play it cautious, and move this thing forward with a regimented and focused program.
And presumably the reason why you have to do those relatively close space holds, 15 to 25 meter pattern, is because of structural complexity in this folded terrain.
Absolutely, and this deposit is no exception. We need basically to follow. We can drill a fence of holes and realize that we've missed it on the up dip and the down dip just as quickly as that. And and you know what? It may sound painful to investors, but that's the truth of it. We need to make sure that we don't miss this thing and just let these little jewelry boxes go by, because some of the best mineralization at the Swan Zone at Fosterville is in a zone just from 4 to 15 meters in thickness, 25 meters to 50 meters in height, but it's the down plunge, and you've got to figure out that plunge. And if that plunge has been later cut by later structure, you've got to go fishing again. So it doesn't pay to be cocky or aggressive. Sometimes you get lucky, but I'd rather just play it safe right now and do the methodical approach. And I think at the end of the day, we'll be rewarded for that.
And presumably this will generate, with enough drilling and with enough geological understanding, it will generate a small tonnage but high grade resource.
Yes, and another ouch word, I guess, for shareholders, small, right? But but the thing is, it's still open, Merlin. We're open in all directions. So, it may be, small to whatever, what it ultimately will be. But the thing is that, we probably compromised volume for higher quality ounces, if you want to use that. So, if that means anything to anyone, maybe more to potential suitors or takeover targets. I'm not saying there's anyone going to take us over, but for the advanced sort of stage of where the project is, rather than have just a global resource at the lowest possible category, I'd be very happy with ounces in the mid to upper class of reserves.
I didn't mean to use the word small in any kind of disparaging tone. It's not a bulk tonnage low grade deposit. It's a low tonnage high grade deposit, which has got its own set of economic parameters that you need to get your head around.
Yes, absolutely. No offense taken.
Where are you in your path to a resource? Are you confident enough, or have you drilled enough of your envelope for you to say, right, now's the time to put a resource out?
No, not a chance. Being still open, and obviously with the new material, albeit low grade, at the 511 zone that we announced in our last press release at South Pond, and of course 463 coming just before Christmas. We're still finding these gems, and until we drill them out to the best of our ability, and I don't think we're there yet. I'm going to be patient and not rush this thing, because the minute you do a 43-101, it's going to be out of date, and who knows that the next hole that we drill after putting that out won't be a 463 or a hole 39 or a hole 1 for that matter. I hate to say it, but I don't think we're ready for a resource for a while yet.
So just to put things in context, a couple of weeks ago, you published it was 21 meters at 9.75 grams ton gold from the 463 zone, and the the other zone is 21 meters at 1.1 grams.
Yes, yeah. We're still getting our head around that 511 zone. That was the latter one you mentioned, the 21 zone, 21 meters of a gram. But the setting is what really has me excited, Merlin. It's basically in altered dikes in folded sediments, and that's exactly the setting. Every one of our other mineralized zones, there's mafic dikes, there's altered mafic dikes in very close proximity to high grade. We don't have enough holes down yet. We've only got a couple of holes down there yet, and it's wide open to the south. Completely. The nearest drilling is to the north, which is the South Pond, and that's probably 300, 400 meters away. That's a lot of room, and you can hide a lot of gold in those areas. So until we get a bunch more holes into the 511 zone, we don't know if it's just going to be a different type of gold mineralization, or if there is indeed high grade veins associated with it. So we've got a little bit of work to do down there for sure.
How do you name these things? Is it on a grid? Is it 511 meters away from the kind of your baseline, or?
What we've been doing lately is, because we ran out of compass directions, we've got the west trend and the south trend and the south pond and the north pond. We're now just naming zones after the drill hole that either first encounters them or first significantly defines them.
So you're up in the 500s in your drilling.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. And so you've got another 20,000 meters of drilling to go at Moosehead. You've got 2 rigs running. Are you going to pause at the end of that? Do you said you were going to drill more, but do you have a kind of a break zone where you kind of sit down and have a cup of tea?
Well, I think we get a small opportunity to do that with, see, the way we work the rotation here, Merlin, is we work 19 days on and 19 days off, and that includes everybody. That's the entire staff, my staff, as well as the drilling contractor. So that gives everybody a chance to get home with their families for 2 weekends plus 5 work days wedged in between. So it works out for everybody, especially people with families with kids and things like that. But it also gives us a chance to catch up, albeit slowly, to the assay backlog, which has now really shrunken quite a bit. We're only now probably less than 10 holes, I'd say, behind in terms of assays. So we're slowly gaining on that front. Now there will be a winter spring breakup sort of thing coming up at some point this year, which in recent years has only been a few weeks in itself. So I suspect by the summer, by June, that if we're not completely caught up with assays, it'll just be a handful of holes behind. So, we're going to stick with that plan. It keeps everybody fresh and things like that. So that's the way it's going to work from now on, at Moosehead at least.
And that 20,000 meters of drilling will be done by when?
Well, with current, I guess, production rates, and the holes are getting deeper, and of course wedging is a bit slower. It depends on how much wedging we have to do. I suspect by the end of the summer, I'd say by Q3, we should have that done. And there's no real plans to stop unless something earth-shattering happens. We happen to hit something really spectacular, or there's some other event. But no, we're just going to keep on going. We hope obviously that some of the results we look forward to getting will allow us to either raise additional funds for continuing on at higher share prices, or even have a bunch of of our warrants that are sitting out there come home to roost as well. So no, there's no plans to stop anything at 100,000 meters. That's just a number.
Okay, and well, let's talk about that, because I think you did a flow through funding in December and raised $4.1 million.
Yes, actually, and the reason, there were 2 reasons for that. One was that our entire treasury up to that point had been hard dollars. So hard dollars are kind of important for a junior to maintain, in terms of they pay a lot of the bills that flow through dollars don't spend. And if we're just going to burn them up in the drill bit, it just made sense to do that. Plus, we want to ramp up things at Kraken. We're going to start with 1 drill, but don't be surprised, and I'm not speaking out of turn here. Steve and I did talk about this, but once we get a few more of the, I can't even count them, outstanding soil targets that we've got at the Kraken, defined for drilling, that you'll see a second drill come in at the Lithium project. So we're in a bit of a race here. I mean, obviously, there's companies every day. There's practically a new company coming on, with a prospect in Quebec or Ontario or wherever, in the lithium space. And we've got to get a bit more aggressive and get more news out. You can look to things start off a bit slowly, in probably April with 1 rig, and then when we get the targets a little better defined, I really want to get a second rig in there, and because we'll be a long time proving whether some of these prospects are even worth drilling if we just keep with the 1 rig. So look for things to get a bit more aggressive at the lithium side of things later this summer.
Just going back to the gold, you say you're going to kind of keep going. We're going to drill more gold and drill more gold. The share price doesn't seem to like that. Is that a strategy that's going to turn the share price around? Because it's been it's almost a 2-year downtrend, and I know the gold market's been complex, and 2022 was a shocker for almost every development company. But just your kind of thoughts on the turnaround and the macro, please.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that 100% of the companies out there, their CEOs are not happy with their share price, unless you just happen to be taken over recently. But I don't know many of those. If we were just a one-off, if we were the only one, and you did mention, like the whole sector is off. I mean, and is that any comfort? It's not any comfort, but it certainly suggests that we're not alone, I guess. And if you want to look for any kind of a silver lining in these things, it's the fact that we're not the only company whose share price has suffered. We're explorers, and I think that, that's how we get out of this. I think we just make new discoveries. I mean, I know we were just talking about Moosehead, and probably that's what this general question is about, but I really do believe, and I'm not trying to divert at all from Moosehead, but I do believe that the Kraken is I'm a big Star Trek fan, the undiscovered country, because we don't even know yet, Merlin, if we're even drilling in the best place. I mean, it's a huge property, and this is what I'm saying. We need to get more aggressive with that. And again, I'm not trying to divert from the gold. Sokoman is a gold company, but we've got to maximize the value of what Kraken and Golden Hope is for our shareholders. So I hope they understand that, and not give me too hard a time. But I do believe that the lithium, even though that's even softened up quite a bit. The price for lithium carbonate has come down quite a bit, but it's just, I think, one of these, got ahead of itself, probably just coming back to normal. But I think we have to, we have to get ourselves out of this and just make believers again of people that pushed our shares to higher prices, on several occasions. We've been as high as 58 cents in the first wave, and the second wave we went to the 70s and things. I think we're capable of doing that with the drill bit. I really do. What do
your shareholders say? I mean, have you spoken to Eric Sprott at all? Is there any feedback from that quarter?
Well, Mr. Sprott certainly calls on a regular basis. I mean, he's got quite a stable, as everybody knows. So if he called everybody, he'd be a very busy man. And yes, I do look forward to his calls, and we do talk. And he's a very big fan of our lithium property. In fact, the initial funds that we raised for the first wave of work at the lithium project was 100% from him. So I mean, that was a good sign for us that he's a supporter. Anything that's got good grade and there's visibility for marketability, whatever. He's all aboard of that, and he's still a large shareholder, and I haven't heard from him in a little while, but it's I'm sure with time.
Other investors, when you did the flow through financing, who were you speaking to there? Who else is on the shareholder register?
Well, actually, I'm hearing mostly from our base, our retail crowd, who have been with us. A lot of them have been with us from the very beginning, and no one was happy with that financing at Christmas in terms of the share price. We were on a little bit of a roll. The previous few had been at progressively higher prices, albeit not doubles or triples or anything. But I kind of prided myself on the fact that they were all at somewhat higher levels. Now we did one at Christmas again to preserve our hard dollar cash. And the markets, I don't know where the markets are going to be in a few months, and we could be raising money at 18 cents, heaven forbid, at the next go around. But we have to keep going. I mean, we can't stop. So yeah, I know I wasn't happy with that at all, and I participated in it to the best of my ability, and I didn't feel good buying shares at that level. No, I did not.
The lithium price has been pretty volatile. I mean, it's been a pretty wild ride. It's gone up 8 times in short time span, and it's kind of it's looking a bit toppy perhaps at the moment. Of course, the longer term fundamentals are great. Do you feel it's overshot in the short term?
I think so. I mean, I don't think anything can keep going up exponentially without some sort of a breather, and I think it's healthy. I think basically. The market is still readjusting itself in terms of the demand and the expectations. Like the Canadian government has said, no more electric, no more gas-powered vehicles to be sold by 2035 and things like that. I mean, that's pretty aggressive, and I think reality sets in at some time at some point as well. And I'm not against that. It's just that I personally don't think it's possible. I think there's going to have to be a longer stretch between what the ultimate goal is for the planet and things like that, and reality. I mean, I live in a town of 15,000 people. I don't even know if there's a charger here. So what good is it to buy an electric vehicle right now? And I can't get one anyway for probably a year. So what comes first, chicken or the egg? The chargers or the cars and things like that. I mean, you could. I'm probably getting a little off track, but it's. But I guess the basic question is, I think we're just in a normal pullback, for the lithium prices, and it'll move forward again.
And I'm certainly bullish gold, and it looks as if you've got a bit of gold running in your veins as well, by the way that you've approached gold exploration over time.
Thank you. And I mean, not to forget our other projects that we've been nursing along. One, the Fleur De Lys, which is kind of near and dear to my heart. It's our only other real 100% owned project, and it's targeting rocks that actually are very similar to on your side of the pond in the UK, in the Dalradian over there, and it's it's still early stage, but it's a big project. I think once we get more aggressive with that, I think you could look for some really good things from there. Plus our other projects in partnership with Benton, the Grey River project and Kepenkeck, and obviously we're going to have to find time and money for all those, but not to the detriment certainly of our flagship and what could ultimately benefit shareholders the most. We won't certainly sacrifice just doing work just to do work on other projects just because we have them. I mean, we have to be practical.
With the cash in hand that you've got and the work plans that you've got for Kraken and for Moosehead, what's the kind of the rough split of your capital deployment for the next 8 months? So let's say to the end of summer, which is when you hopefully will have done the 20,000 meters of drilling at Moosehead.
Well, right now it's about 25% for the lithium out of our $7.5 million treasury. That's a minimum. Like I generally like to leave myself a lot of wiggle room because I don't want to run the tank dry. Obviously, you don't want to spend all your money and then go to the market with nothing in the bank, because then it leaves you kind of vulnerable. But so it'll be about a 25% at least for the first half of the year, I think, on the Kraken, simply because we won't have the second drill, which I mentioned earlier is something that I want to see at some point, in Q2, Q3, moving forward with that Kraken. The bulk of the money will be spent on obviously the flagship project, Moosehead. We got to get to the bottom of this thing, and while it's still open, we were obviously still we're still in discovery mode, really, at Moosehead, as we are at Kraken, which is very exciting to say.
I think you stay in discovery mode right until you're confident that the envelope of mineralisation, that the easiest stuff to be found with smart geology in that particular area is defined. Well, I also really feel that in terms of appeal to the market, in terms of what's more likely to drive our stock moving forward, is it putting out a resource or making new discoveries on the Moosehead project, where we know high grade is in abundance. Every zone we have, Merlin, has high grade in it, except for 511, which only has a couple holes in it. But I mean, all of our zones have high grade, so it's not like we're just in one or two holes that we can keep referring to. Oh, remember when we hit that? Yeah, well, we just hit one of those last month, sort of thing. I really do believe that the discovery mode for Sokoman is the one that could ultimately benefit our share price the most. But as long as you can show growth, the market likes growth. There's no doubt about it. But at some point, there has to be some kind of connection with economic factors. It has to be demonstrably de-risked to the point that you can say, okay, this is economic. It's going to come out of the ground in some form. And to do that, you need a resource.
Oh, absolutely. And again, at what point do we do that? There's a lot of people out there who say, the resource estimates, they never satisfy anyone, because you lose so much in the top cut, and trust me, a lot of the intercepts that we have, what will they get cut to? I don't know. It's kind of a little scary when you think about it, but I do think we have a good case to move forward with in that respect, in that we do have a very I forget what the percentage would be in terms of what you would call high grade, but I think we could argue for a higher top cut than, say, just an across the board 30 gram sort of thing that a lot of people use. I think we could argue for it because of the history of the project and the unusual number of high grade intercepts that we do have. But again, that's down the road.
Okay, so can you just summarize for me the kind of the main news flow items that kind of might catch the market's attention for? I mean, we're halfway through Q1, but let's do Q1, Q2, Q3, and then Q4, quarter by quarter.
Well, I think obviously the work we're doing now at the 463 zone at Moosehead, a lot of people are looking at that, as are we, obviously. And the next few wedge holes will obviously tell us a lot. We're also going to start to expand on the strike length of the 463 zone because basically we've been just trying to establish its sort of geometry in the vertical sense, not so much in the lateral sense. We do have a very good idea that it's a flat-lying sort of a tube or rod or that sort of shape to it. So that's mostly and really we're only really exploring at Moosehead until the end of Q1. Q2 we'll start work at the Kraken, as well as obviously now things will be ongoing at Moosehead throughout the year. So there'll always be updates from Moosehead. But like I said, we have a number of soil targets. I gave a presentation in Vancouver just a couple of weeks ago, and I think a lot of people were impressed with with just how open the lithium possibilities are at Kraken based on our soil geochemistry. I mean, some of our strongest soil geochemistry occurs 2 kilometers up to 4 kilometers away from anything we know right now on this project, and then we still have 12 kilometers away to the cesium, cesium lithium aspect. So therein is 12 kilometers. I mean, that's a large area to explore, and not a lot of it is. So again, I think I think the attraction to Sokoman is the discovery mode that we're still in, even though we've been explorers at a couple of projects now for a few years. I think discoveries are still going to come at Moosehead. They're going to come at Kraken. And when we do decide to get our feet wet really at Fleur De Lys, I think we're going to surprise people there as well. So yeah.
Do you have a plan to drill Fleur De Lys?
Depends on how much money I have left in the bank.
So it's a possible for Q4, but not a definite.
Yeah, it will be Q4 at the earliest. Yes, that's right. Yeah. We will be doing some work there, by the way. I mean, we will have boots on the ground. I mean, a lot of that dirt hasn't been turned over up there, and it's funny because it's kind of an overlooked, forgotten area of Newfoundland. It's currently where all of our current gold production is coming from, is the Bay Verte Peninsula, where the Fleur De Lys property is. Everybody's focus, obviously, for very good reason, on the Valentine Lake, Central Newfoundland gold structure, whatever you want to call it. It's got many names, nothing official, but obviously the focus is there because of recent developments, with our project and marathons and Newfound as well. But the Bay Verte Peninsula is still where all of our gold is coming from. So Fleur De Lys could be a dark horse for us yet.
Yeah. I remember liking the geology when we went through the deep dive on the technical side. Good, Timothy. Thank you very much for the update. Good luck with the drill bit. One always needs luck as well as geological skill and perseverance.
You do. Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing how the lithium discoveries goes with Benton. You're co-funding that on a 50-50 basis.
Yep. 50-50 basis, sir.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.